Welcome to Study Loop.
This question is really focusing on two laws that are part of Dalton's atomic theory, the law of multiple proportions and the law of definite proportions. So the law of definite proportions just says that when you have a compound composed of two elements, the ratio of their masses is always going to be the same number. So they're asking us to compare the masses of oxygen to the mass of nitrogen in each of these compounds. And we have 30.82 grams of nitrogen for each of them. We're just going to do grams of oxygen divided by grams of nitrogen, and we're going to get decimals. I'm not going to worry about significant digits here because the values don't really matter a huge amount, and you'll see why in a minute. So this was the first compound. The second compound is 35.2 grams of oxygen over the 30.82 grams of nitrogen, which gives me a ratio of 1.14. The third one is 70.4 grams of oxygen, again over 30.82 grams of nitrogen. That gives me 2.28. Whoops. And then for the last one, we have 88 grams of oxygen over 30.82 grams of nitrogen. That gives me 2.86. So by law of definite proportions, these will always have this same ratio. Looking at each of the compounds compared to each other, though, brings us to the law of multiple proportions. The law of multiple proportions basically says that these ratios that we just found will give you a small whole number ratio when you compare them. So for example, if I take 0.57 and I divide it by the last one we did is 2.86, this ratio is the same thing as 1 over 5. If I compared the 0.57 to 1.14, which is the second one we did, we're going to get a small whole number ratio of 1/2. That is the law of multiple proportions. The ratio of the proportion of oxygen to nitrogen is going to give us a small whole number ratio value. So in compound 1 compared to compound 2, this is a 1:2 ratio. Comparing compound 1 to compound 5, it was a 1:5 ratio. So these numbers hold true that the law of multiple proportions in Dalton's atomic theory is true.